What's up, world? It's your fairy glow mother, Hadia Dashe, and I'm back with another new episode of Pore Choices, the podcast that helps beauty professionals and enthusiasts make what? Better beauty decisions. That's right. We are going to get into today's episode, which is all about Pore media training. And, I'm talking social media. But before I could fully get into that, I do want to apologize for last week's episode being a little late because your girl just was not paying attention and didn't realize that my scheduled post did not actually post. So that is on me. But as a Virgo, Sun, Capricorn, Moon, that kind of killed my little heart. So sorry about that. We will make sure we are back on track now. So every Tuesday, tune in. And if you haven't left a review for the podcast yet, please go leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars if you think I'm a 5-star chick on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you haven't subscribed yet for whatever reason, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This week, we are talking Skinstagram, Skin Talk, and why every beauty professional actually kind of hates social media. I know. It's so weird because the beauty consumer loves social media. They get all their information from social media. But as a professional, there's just a lot that we don't really like. And I will give you a lot of my personal anecdotes and stories, but I don't want to talk too much. So let's make sure we go ahead and get to the episode and make sure you listen all the way through for our new segments. Let's get started. Okay, coming in hot. I just want to say not everyone is going to like you. And that's kind of like the overarching theme for this episode for the beauty professionals. For both my beauty professionals and my consumers, that follow-up theme is that numbers don't mean shit. Okay, a follower count means nothing to you, to the follower, to anybody looking. It really does not mean anything. And I'm going to break everything down, but before I can fully get into the episode, I just want to start there because I feel like whenever social media comes up in this industry in particular, those are kind of the two main pain points, I would say. It's about like an area of competition and also like follower count. Both consumers and professionals get really caught up on follower count. Jay-Z once famously said, "Men lie, women lie, numbers don't." But he was lying when he said that, okay? Numbers lie all the time. It is so easy for numbers and data to be manipulated. So do not put a lot of faith into anyone's follower count. Just keep listening to this episode and do you, and we gonna work through this together. Now, there are so many social media platforms, of course, but the ones that I think matter most within our industry are Instagram, TikTok, maybe Pinterest, depending on what you are. Like, I think Pinterest is way more beneficial for nail techs than like an esthetician. And makeup artists can really benefit from Pinterest as well. There's also OnlyFans, okay? And I know what you're thinking, but I don't want you to count that one out. There's YouTube. There's Twitter, kinda. There's Twitter, kinda. And, I really don't know about Facebook anymore. I'm gonna just mention it, but I will say I don't fully know about Facebook. That one's like, I don't know. So I guess I want to start by addressing the elephant in this treatment room, the elephant in the spa, in the studio, in the salon, if you will. I think social media is destroying the integrity of our industry. I'm sorry. Someone had to say it, and I guess it had to be me. I think that there's a lot going on with the way that the professionals present themselves on social media, and I'm not excluding myself in this. I'm just, this is a podcast. It's going to be evergreen. Just want to make it apply to everyone. I think there's a chasm in the way that we display our professionalism online, on social media in particular. And I think there's also a chasm in the way that our potential clients view us on social media. I think there's dangers in both sides, and I think for both parties, the ways in which we consume social media, specifically as it relates to beauty, is a little dangerous. I think for professionals, and this could be a little controversial, maybe, but I do think social media is making us much worse professionals. I think we become too busy trying to create camera-ready results and perfecting these after photos and only allowing certain type of clients to take photos or post certain types of clients, that we're not really showing the real. We're becoming showmen. We're becoming QVC salespeople. We're not becoming professionals, experts, educators. It's just, there's a huge disconnect here. I think another thing too is that anybody can be a beauty influencer. And this is very disheartening as a professional because it blurs the lines between enthusiast and professionalism. And when you are a professional, having an element of professionalism is very important. It does help to distinguish you from the everyday person. But in the beauty industry, that is so hard to do. There are so many people who are actually professionals, albeit in other professions, who all kind of dabble in beauty. They all kind of dabble in the beauty industry. And it's really hard to say like, oh, that person's unprofessional. They don't really know what they're talking about. Because let's say if they were a marketing professional, like I was, full disclosure, they probably are really great at talking about certain elements of beauty. And they would sound no different from someone who was an actual licensed professional. But there's something to be said about people who can talk about beauty, but don't really have that hands-on experience. So I know as a professional, it gets really frustrating when you have the hands-on experience, you know why certain things happen, why, certain things will turn out this way versus the expectation. But it's so hard to convey that when no one's really listening to you because of a follower count, which gets back to my beginning point about the numbers. And I want to pause for a moment and say, as someone who did previously work in marketing at an agency, and I had access to a lot of professional marketing tools, so many big influencer accounts and even big professional accounts have artificial followers. Like, it is so incredibly common. So do not put all of your stock and faith into a follower account. A follower account does not mean anything. I want to pause. I want that to sink in. Okay. Another thing too is this kind of competition between the skinfluencer and the professional when there really should not be. I want to say that if you are a professional in beauty and you are on social media, baby, you might as well just become an influencer too. Do not leave any money on the table. I feel like at this juncture, this current stage of social media that we're in, everybody has to be an influencer. It may be annoying. I would agree with you on that. But extra money is extra money. I'm not saying you have to go in and you have to sell super hard. You can literally decide, I'm only going to promote one product a month because everything else I'm promoting is going to be my business. That's fine. That makes sense. I do also think that from a consumer perspective, it's starting to seem like consumers will trust you less if you don't have a breadth of knowledge of current products, of the hot topic products of the moment. And so allowing yourself to be an influencer will keep you front of mind. If someone's searching about a particular product, they might come across something you posted or you shared about. So that's something to keep in mind too. With those skinfluencers that have zero credentials, who get the hundreds of thousands and millions of followers, and while the licensed professionals are struggling, there you do have, it may not seem like it, but you do have a leg up on them, because these influencers are pushing products they've never properly studied. They're recommending treatments they're not really qualified to perform. And you absolutely know that, because you could, if you're an esthetician, you probably get inquiries about very specific pills. They're like, yeah, I want a V pill, I want a perfect derma pill, and you've never seen them before. They just calling you up out the blue or DMing you out the blue, and you have no idea about what their skin is, but they're demanding things from you because they're seeing it talked about on social media. And, hairstylists get this a lot too. I feel like, a lot of the girlies say, I'm getting a versatile hairstyle, a versatile sew-in or whatever, with no edges. Okay, they just be making up hairstyles. They'd be like, oh, I'm trying to grow my hair long and flowy. I can't find nobody to grow my hair. Where are the girls with the growing hands? And they have see-through ends that start at the ears. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems to be a misalignment of expectation. As a professional, I think that is very hard to deal with, especially if you're also managing a business. Like, your business is not social media. Your social media is supposed to just promote your business. But consumers get too caught up in social media. And we see this because it don't matter what you put in your bio, if you mention it on every post, someone is going to DM you. They're going to DM you to ask questions. They're going to DM you to book. You can say no DMs. Please don't DM me. Book online. Booking link in my bio. They're going to DM you anyway. Like, no one reads these things. No one cares. But that's a huge, huge part of what makes your experience with social media so difficult as a professional, is because, like, the boundaries are just not there. People aren't inquisitive, and they literally will not really explore your feed past the whatever post that ends up on their personal feed. I think a lot of these algorithms work against us in that regard, because these social media platforms are only created to keep us active and engaged on the platform. They don't want people to go to your bio and click on your link because it takes them out of the app. So if everyone hates social media so bad, then why have it? Well, to be honest, a lot of us will not be in business if it wasn't for social media. Social media is a free way for us to market. Like, yes, there's a lot of time. Yes, there's a lot of effort that is put into it. And if we get to a certain stage in our careers, yes, we hire a social media person. But for the most part, social media is a free way to acquire a customer. And it's a great way to stay front of mind with your potential customers and clients. It used to be fun. I know when I started out almost 10 years ago now, it was really fun to be on social media and share information about skincare and, share my little before and after posts. But now it's just really taxing. It's actually really daunting every time I open an app. And I've gotten to the point where I just recently deactivated the Twitter, because I was like, I no longer see the content of people I actually follow. I keep getting algorithm served content, and that content does not serve me. So yeah, there's also the constant stress of what to post. What to post. Because after a certain while, especially like on Instagram, eventually, like, if you keep posting the same thing over and over and over and over and over, like, Instagram notices that pattern, and then they'll stop, like, they'll kind of start de-promoting your content. And so in order to, like, really be active, engaged, and, like, constantly reach new people on Instagram, you have to constantly post new different things. Or let's say you notice everyone starts posting before and afters like you. All those copycats end up in, again, your content being devalued to the algorithm. So you have to, like, put some thought into what you're posting on social media. Now, there are some things that I think it's got normalized to post, and I think we just shouldn't be posting, but it could be me. I'm a little auntie. I'm a little old, okay? But, like, please no coochie on my Instagram feed. Like, the Brazilian wax before and afters with a little hand over, like, we don't need that. I don't think we need that. No one needs to see that. If that's what you want to do, 100% get an OnlyFans. I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so during the pandemic, I actually did have an OnlyFans. And my OnlyFans was only waxing and sugaring content. And I got models, and some of them were sex workers. And I literally just recorded. It was like a hyper zoom recording of me waxing a vagina or sugaring. But that was it. Waxing or sugaring. That was it. Like, you could not see my client. You couldn't see anything but my hand and my client's vulva vagina. That was it. You couldn't see the client at all. Like, it was so zoomed in. Like, no tattoos were shown. Literally nothing. But it was like in 4K. That OnlyFans actually took off. It actually kind of got me through the pandemic, to be honest. And then I had a podcast component with it where I would edit the video and then I would watch the video with my friends, mainly my men friends, because I really know how to lean in to a concept. And it was kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000. So like we would watch the video and then like we would get their commentary. And we had a podcast. I published that podcast. Basically, the OnlyFans was a podcast, and it was called Snatch and Gab, because at the time the waxing service on my website was called a Snatch and Grab. And that was, that was cool. It was real cool. I would always tell people, like, if you want to see more of these videos, leave a tip of at least $50 to cover someone's service. My service wasn't $50. I think it was $65 at the time, like a Brazilian wax or whatever. But I probably made, like, in the very short time, I think we really only did that for like 9 months. In the very short time that I did that, I probably made $500 alone just from people tipping. Like, every time I would do a video and I would be like, make sure you leave a tip of like $50. I would always get like at least like 2 tips every video. So if you want to, I say all that to say, if you want to share coochie on Instagram or on social media, don't. Put it on OnlyFans and make even more money from it. You may not get any clients from that, but you will have clients who are paying just to look at that. And then it becomes a free way for you to get clients, because when people would tip, I would be like, hey y'all, we got a new tip, like, who wants to come through, get a free wax? You just gotta, and people would do it. People do a lot of things for free, okay? So do not discount that, okay? Don't count OnlyFans out. OnlyFans don't mean you got to be on there showing you and, doing what we know OnlyFans to do. You can absolutely turn OnlyFans on its head. I did. I don't do that anymore. I literally only did it for like 9 months in 2020. Someone even wrote about that, actually. I think like 3 publications ended up reaching out to me because of it. I would share some like skincare content on there too, even though no one cared. But a few estheticians would subscribe to. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but there are certain platforms for certain content. I think if you're going to, do Instagram, TikTok, videos of you doing service, because it seems like everything is moving to video. That's another whole thing. Videos of you doing services, videos of you sharing education. I think those do really well. The video does have to be aesthetically pleasing. I do think you need to like have really good lighting, really sharp, clear images, shooting everything on your phone. I would not recommend using Canva to edit and then post to Instagram, because I have noticed that if you use content from Canva, it will get very low views. I don't know how Instagram knows this, but I noticed that things from Canva get very low views. It's demoted basically in the algorithm, versus you recording and editing something on your phone or using a tool like CapCut. So I know like Canva is like very convenient, but I would advise against using something like that. I also think if you download from TikTok and post to Instagram, that demotes the content in the algorithm as well on Instagram. But if you did vice versa, like download from Instagram and repost to TikTok, I think it does just fine. So I don't know what that's about. I think that hairstylists should do more model days to do like kind of more out there styles. Because I think the way a lot of potential clients today use Instagram, and particularly searching for hairstylists, is more so looking for hair inspiration. And I think if you do more like out there styles that you don't really like see a lot of other hairstylists posting, not like fantasy type of hair show type styles, but just like if you try to like create trends basically with your hairstyles, I think you will end up attracting a lot more clients and, you know, to a certain extent followers, just from people looking for hair inspiration. And then you'll get people who are like, I want to go to them because they always doing different hairstyles. I think that's something that's cool. You know, on social media, it seems like hashtags used to be so beneficial, but lately it seems like, what's the point? I think if you use hashtags, it needs to be like a maximum of 3. Like, it used to be able to hashtag it up and you could really grow through hashtags. And now it seems like, do not touch hashtags. You shouldn't use hashtags for anything. Now it seems like if you use the hashtag, you just asking for somebody to never see your post. So, you know, I just gave you some little tips on what to do with social media. I don't want to talk about this too much because I know I just been yapping. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this episode. Leave a comment. Let me know if you want a part 2. Head over to YouTube. Let me know your thoughts on things so far. Leave a comment on Spotify. And we're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back to finish up the episode. Get you some voila-vanishing-serum if you do not want your Valentine to have a bumpy ride. You know what I'm saying? It works. It works really, really fast too. There's a link to purchase it in the description. And because you're listening to this podcast, you can use the code Pore Choices to save on your first purchase. Now, Drug of Choice is a segment where I talk about prescription skincare products that is beneficial to a number of skin conditions. I feel like no one in beauty talks about prescription skincare outside of tretinoin. I'm so tired of hearing about tretinoin. I'm so tired of retinol. Like, there are a lot of prescriptions out there in which they're actually prescribed for other things. And sometimes when those clients are using products off-label, especially off-label, there's not a lot of information on proper care, protocol, anything like that. So I just wanted to have an area of the podcast where I can kind of shine some light on those things. Before I can tell you about today's drug of choice, I have to give you some terminology. So a lot of the drugs that I will be talking about in drug of choice are off-label prescriptions in dermatology. And off-label refers to medications that have been FDA approved but are being prescribed for a different use than what's on the original label. The medication is still FDA approved and safe, but it's just being used differently than its original intended purpose. So a really good example of this is that a lot of dermatologists will prescribe certain antihistamines that were approved for allergies to help with chronic itching, or antidepressants to treat chronic pain associated with some skin conditions. Another really important point is that off-label prescriptions are completely legal and very common in dermatology. So I don't want you to think that me saying this means like, oh my God, my doctor gave me something off-label. What does that mean? Or they did something wrong. That is not the case at all. Doctors can prescribe FDA-approved drugs off-label when their medical judgment and scientific evidence supports the use. However, it is important to note that insurance coverage for off-label uses can vary. Today's drug of choice is spironolactone. Spironolactone was originally developed and FDA approved as a diuretic to treat high blood pressure, heart failure, and conditions that cause excess fluid retention. It works by blocking aldosterone, a hormone that regulates salt and water balance in the body. However, dermatologists discovered that spironolactone also blocks androgen receptors, which is a male hormone, and reduces testosterone production. This anti-androgenic effect makes it particularly effective for treating hormonal acne in women, especially acne that appears along the jawline, chin, and lower face. Many dermatologists now prescribe it off-label as a treatment option for women with persistent acne who haven't responded well to traditional acne treatments or who can't take or prefer not to take oral contraceptives or isotretinoin. It's worth noting that spironolactone isn't prescribed to men for acne because of its anti-androgenic effects, which could cause feminizing side effects. It's specifically useful in the female population, making it a more valuable tool in treating adult women who struggle with acne. Is that cool? I hope you learned something. I do get a lot of questions about spironolactone. And I also get a lot of questions about like why men don't have to take medication for acne. And it's not true that men don't have to take it, but I figured I would tell you about spironolactone because I know a lot of people know what that is, and it also explains why men will not be taking it. All right, let's get into some choice words. All right, we have 2 choice words, 2 listener letters to get into. I'm going to start off with this first one from Alyssa. It reads, "Hey, OMG, I am so in love with this podcast. I recently graduated from aesthetic school, and this podcast seems like exactly what I needed. I am super excited to have gotten my license, but I am struggling with finding a job. It seems like everywhere is requiring experience or just not very welcoming to a newly licensed esthetician. How did you get started, and what do you recommend that I do? Thanks so much. Love listening to your podcast, Alyssa." Well, thank you, Alyssa. This is tough, and it's going to sound mean. But most places actually do not hire estheticians straight out of school unless it's like a European wax center, a Hand and Stone, any type of chain spa. And there really is no other way around that. One big reason for that is because there is a lot of trust that needs to be established in aesthetics, and new estheticians just do not have a high trust factor. Not with potential clients and not with employees either. Other estheticians in this business actually give everyone else a bad rep. We're very flaky. We're notorious for not being on time. We don't have really good customer service practices or business practices. And like, we're not that great at marketing ourselves. And a lot of new estheticians kind of sort of need to rely on the business to do all of the marketing for them. And that comes at an expense. So if you are able to get a job, it's probably going to pay you very low because the employer has to spend so much money marketing you to potential clients. That's one thing. The other part of that is that the motivation that you need, like, you have to be entirely self-motivated to like really make it in this business. And you have to be proactive too. I would make a list of local spas in your area that you'd be interested in, that you think, because you don't really know unless you go to them, but you think you might be interested in working, and literally find their email address, send your resume that way, and show up in person. I can't tell you how many estheticians I talk to who have hired or are hiring, but literally do not hire because either the person they're hiring never booked an appointment at that spa before, or they never even like came by just to see what it was about. So I think that's like really important. The last thing I would tell you to do is try to get a job at Equinox. So Equinox was technically the third place that I worked after I got licensed, but I ended up working there for like about a year. Equinox, the gym, every Equinox has a spa inside of it. Now, I'm telling you this because 1, they pay very well, and 2, you will have benefits, and they're pretty good benefits, and 3, you get a free Equinox membership. But Equinox, depending on the location, it might be slow as hell. You may not have a lot of clients, but what you will have is access to a lot of advanced treatments. So when I was working there, today the machine is called a Diamond Glow. It used to be called, I can't even remember what it used to be called, but the Equinox that I worked at had one of the original Diamond Glow machines. They only use SkinCeuticals and Eminence, which are considered more high-end spa lines. Most Equinox today have the hydrofacial. So you'll have access and you'll get trained on a lot of different modalities. If you're trying to do more advanced skincare, though, I don't really think you'd have access to like the really good chemical peels. If you wanted to do more focus on waxing, I don't think you would really have access to that. Most of the Equinox clientele is going to be more for like spa relaxation type of vibes, but it pays good. And the people at Equinox tip really good, and you'll have benefits. So I think that's like the only advice that I could give you. If you need a job like right now today, go look for Equinox. I've also heard Lifetime Fitness has a similar setup, but I've never been to a Lifetime Fitness, so I don't know. I live in the Bay, and I think we just got one in like Walnut Creek, but I haven't been to it. But I hear like they have a similar setup, so maybe look into a Lifetime Fitness. Any type of like spa health club maybe would be a really good place to start. Hotels are also a really good place to start. I would pick a busy part of the city, like a really downtown metro type of area, because then you might actually be booked. If you pick another hotel that's a little bit more rural, you might have a lot of slow days. So yeah, I hope that helps you. Congratulations on graduating, and I hope that you find some success in this industry. Our next question comes from T. T says, "Hi, Hadia. I love this podcast. I think what you're doing is so amazing." Oh my God, thank you. And I really, really love that you created this choice words segment. I didn't think I would have anything to ever submit, but turns out I actually do. I recently booked an appointment with a very, very popular esthetician online who opened up a new studio. Because they are so popular online and they've had major brand deals, I was very excited to book with them. They had some availability, and I can't believe that I got an appointment. Their prices were a little bit out of my range, but I figured that any esthetician appointment I booked would kind of be out of my range. Most of you guys I follow all have similar pricing, so I just figured this was a luxury expense that I would have to pay. I did not like my experience at all. And I know I have no experience to go on, but I really feel like my facial should not have been done like that. It feels like it was kind of rushed. I didn't really see any difference in my skin immediately after. And I don't know, it just didn't really feel like it was helpful in any type of way. Is this normal, or did I get scammed? Wow. Okay. That's a lot to unpack. But also a really good example of why I said at the beginning of the episode that follower count do not matter. The follower count does not matter. Do they have clients? It sounds like whoever you went to has a lot of followers. They have a lot of accolades, but maybe you didn't realize you have not actually seen a lot of clients or have seen them post a lot of clients. And that happens more than you think. I think a lot of people who maybe start out as skinfluencers, even if they are licensed, the products kind of lead the way for their popularity, and you don't really see them doing a lot of clients. Like, you probably don't see a lot of client photos or even before and after photos on their page. And so, yeah, that doesn't mean that you got scammed per se. I'm hesitant to say that, but it does mean that you probably just booked with someone who you didn't realize couldn't really help you. And I don't know you, I can't see you, so I don't know what your skin conditions are, what your skin concerns were, but you could probably better benefit from finding an esthetician who's going to share more about your specific skin concern or share before and after photos that mimics your skin, so you can kind of gauge and see like, oh, okay, they probably will help me with my skin. In terms of pricing, yeah, that's tough. I don't know. Everyone's prices are going to be different. Like, I'll use myself as an example. So my first time client facial, the Genesis, is 75 minutes and it's $300. And with that, you get like a full skin scan, consultation portion, and the facial. And that's a lot, you know. But there's also estheticians who I feel like we have similar popularity. Some might be a little bit more popular than me, and they literally charge like $300 for 30 minutes. So I don't know. Like, I can't I can't really gauge on price. Unfortunately, like, there is no standardized pricing. But yeah, I really hate that you had that experience, and I don't know where you are, but like, book with me next time, even if you gotta fly. It's a vibe over here at Glodegas, so we have fun. But yeah, and actually, speaking of price, next week's episode is going to be on price. I think I'm going to do a part 2 of today's episode, but it's going to come later. Next week's episode is definitely going to be on pricing and prices. So if you are curious about what you should be paying, what you should be getting, anything like that, just listen to next week's episode. Thank you, T, for writing in. If anyone else has some choice words about a product, a practitioner, any thoughts, ideas, questions, concerns, whatever, you can write in anonymously by visiting www.glodega.com/podcast. And if you scroll to the bottom of that page, you'll see the little form to submit your choice words. If you want to submit another way, you can leave a comment on YouTube and we will talk about it in a future episode. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Pore Choices. I'm your host, your fairy glow mother. And again, please like, comment, subscribe, rate, give us 5 stars, the whole shebang. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to your podcast. Please share with a friend. I'm really trying to get this podcast to grow, mainly because it is free game, okay? And I'm going to record all these podcast episodes this year, and then y'all won't be hearing from me. And it's just going to live forever. So if you have questions, send them in. If you have topics you want me to discuss, send them in so we can have all this free information out there and you do not have to pay $2,000 for a 1-day course. Okay? All right. I look forward to hearing from you guys or talking to you guys next week. And remember, make your pore choices the best choices. See you.